In a moment that will always be remembered in royal history, Buckingham Palace sent an urgent statement shortly a few minutes ago. The video shows Prince William and King Charles standing next to each other, looking serious, scared, and about to lose it. There was more than just a royal update after that. The whole United Kingdom held its breath when Prince Louis's tragic bombshell was revealed. What happened to the young prince is no longer the only question. This explains why the truth was kept a secret for so long. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any updates before we delve deeper into what this actually implies for the royal family. There was no ceremony or custom associated with the announcement. There was a sense of urgency. Mid-broadcast, television networks were cut off. Before a single terrifying sentence reverberated throughout the country, radios went silent. There was no celebration here. This wasn't normal. The palace had battled to postpone this until the very last minute. King Charles's speech was slower than normal, clearly strained, and each word was burdened by something much heavier than etiquette. Prince William first remained silent while standing next to him, his jaw clenched and his gaze fixed front. Princess Catherine's absence was recognized right away. Queen Camilla's absence was also a factor. Silence is never an accident in royal parlance. The words that rocked every family came next. Long-term, devastating, and irreversible effects. Lastly, the phrase that paralyzed the nation. They verified that Prince Louis was involved in the issue. There was only confirmation that the youngest son of the Prince and Princess of Wales was at the core of a catastrophic situation, no explanation or assurance. Social media exploded in a matter of seconds. The palace couldn't keep the rumors from spreading. Was it sickness? Was it a mishap? Was it worse than that? There were even murmurs of vanishing. Others were concerned that a diagnosis so dire could change the course of the monarchy itself. The palace just made a painfully inadequate request for privacy and offered no clarification. The person who wasn't present made the situation even more unnerving. Princess Anne, who is renowned for remaining steadfast in times of national emergency, was not present. Queen Camilla, who was always by Charles's side, was noticeably missing. For knowledgeable royal observers, this was no accident. This was a tactic. Cameras waited long enough to catch a brief moment as the statement came to a conclusion. William let out a short breath, as though he was only keeping himself together by effort. Charles's hands shook slightly as he lowered his gaze. These expressions weren't practiced. This was distress in its purest form. Employees were allegedly told to keep quiet behind the palace gates. Phones were seized. Internal documents cautioned against leaks, but experience has demonstrated that when the palace tightens its hold, the truth finds a way out, while the monarchy remains eerily silent and reporters rush to find answers. From inside the palace, murmurs start to escape, and the world will be shocked by what they propose. Catherine knew everything before the rest of the world did. The Princess of Wales had been leading a double life behind palace walls, juggling royal responsibilities with the intolerable burden of a terrible secret regarding her youngest son. Insiders now disclose that she almost left the monarchy in an attempt to shield him from reality. Catherine's instincts became alarmed as soon as Prince Louis started to exhibit tiny behavioral changes. He stopped being playful, became calmer, and sometimes held his side as if something hurt deep inside. She recognized the warning indications that a mother could not overlook. It was more than just restlessness in childhood. It was something different, something more profound, darker, and long-lasting. She demanded a thorough evaluation from royal physicians in order to advance medical clarity. However, she received no assistance in return. It was opposition. Palace officials recommended waiting because they were extremely concerned about public opinion. It's not the proper time. It might cause panic, they claimed. They believed that optics were more important than urgency. However, Catherine found the delay intolerable. She confronted King Charles and Prince William in a private meeting and revealed everything in an uncommon display of candor. She begged that Louis needed answers and action while sobbing and shaking. William reportedly sat in quiet as Charles pledged caution rather than openness. because he was conflicted between being a father and a prince. Catherine became aware that she was fighting this battle alone at that point. Soon after, there were subtle rumors about her hesitation to let Louis participate in public events. The youngest prince was where? What caused him to vanish from the family's Easter procession? She sidestepped, but she was merciless behind the scenes. She got in touch with former royal employees who had worked with Princess Diana, those who understood what it meant to protect a child from the cold machinery of the institution. Insiders claim that she even considered getting independent medical advice, which is highly discouraged by procedure. Catherine's suspicions were only validated by what she found during her private pursuit. She reportedly thought about telling the media the story directly at one point. However, before she could take action, a senior courtier, rather than Charles or even William, sent a note, an explicit directive: quiet. She was almost crushed under the weight of that order. Even though she was broken, Catherine refused to give up. She was aware that the truth could not be kept a secret forever. She also understood that someone in the palace was deliberately trying to hide the fact for reasons unrelated to Louis's welfare. However, despite Catherine's best efforts, forces greater than her own were already at work, and a secret figure in the palace had their own motivations for concealing the truth. Palace insiders claim that Queen Camilla was everything passive regarding Louis's condition, despite the world's perception of her as a ceremonial figure. Records and documents indicate that she actively sought to postpone public disclosure, and the motivations are entirely control-related rather than compassionate. Queen Camilla is said to have had a number of private talks with important royal advisors in the dimly lit inner court and behind the locked doors of Clarence House. She conveyed one message with frightening clarity during those exchanges: the general people weren't prepared. I'm not prepared for a scandal, not prepared for weakness, and most definitely not prepared for the health crises of a royal kid to rock the monarchy's foundations. Some referred to it as interference, while she dubbed it a containment technique. Camilla floated safer narratives in place of transparency. According to sources, she personally approved carefully crafted press releases that implied Prince Louis was either under stress from school finals or was just recuperating from a seasonal illness. In addition to being deceptive, these claims were intentional attempts to divert attention and purchase time. For Camilla, time was of the essence. One former royal aide claimed that she was afraid that a disclosure on Louis's illness would damage the already shaky public image of her rule. Camilla saw the impending crisis as an existential danger to her legacy because she was still fighting for acceptance as queen. Her entire story, which has been meticulously created since her coronation, might fall apart if the country associates her reign with poor leadership or concealment. Her control campaign, however, wasn't popular with everyone. Prince William allegedly lost control after learning that Camilla had personally intervened to prevent a scheduled medical revelation concerning Louis. In a rare outburst of rage, he barged into a private meeting and charged her with putting appearances before his son's life. The ensuing altercation was so intense that royal staff were requested to vacate the chamber. The tension persisted like smoke after a fire, even though the palace never acknowledged the tragedy. Then followed the altercation that actually caused the inner circle to break. Camilla was promptly confronted by Princess Anne, who is renowned for her unwavering honesty. Royal correspondents claim Queen Anne advocated for total transparency, contending that keeping the truth hidden from the public would only increase mistrust. Camilla didn't agree. She maintained that the monarchy required unity rather than scandal and that keeping quiet was protective. However, Anne was able to see through the rationale. It wasn't about keeping Louis safe. The goal was to keep Camilla alive. Camilla allegedly used her established connections with a small number of media editors to keep her hold on the story. A number of publications started releasing ambiguous, softened articles implying that everything was okay within the young prince's schedule. Staged remarks, carefully planned photo releases, and attention-grabbing headlines all worked until they didn't. But even Camilla was powerless to stop the inevitable, and the cover-up broke down into scandal when Prince Louis' condition was eventually discovered in royal medical records. It wasn't only a common sickness. A lifelong illness that not only affects Louis's future, but also has the ability to change the future of the monarchy, was revealed by the diagnosis that was released from a private medical file. And we disclose the startling information for the first time. What Catherine had always feared was confirmed by the report, which was hidden deep within royal archives until an informant revealed it. Even royal doctors found it difficult to explain Prince Louis's unusual neurological disease, which was so complicated and so destructive. It impacts motor coordination as well as cognitive development. Initially subtle, but gradually more so. Additionally, doctors warned that the consequences would be irrefutable by late adolescence. The palace was in a state of chaos. The health of a child wasn't the only consideration. It concerned the continuance of the crown. The monarchs faced a predicament behind locked doors that no etiquette manual had ever anticipated. Could a future king continue to perform his duties for the company even though he might eventually need full-time care? Even worse, is it possible for this illness to run in families? A discreet but crucial inquiry into Princess Diana's medical background resulted from everyone's attention being drawn to the Spencer lineage. What they discovered only made the situation worse. Documents suggested distant cousins who had experienced comparable neurological issues, supporting the theory that Louis was the resuscitation of a latent genetic thread. The senior royal circle was rocked by the disclosure. It was more than simply a medical problem now. It has to do with legacy. The discussions started right away. A few courtiers discussed subtly changing Louis's future function and progressively removing him from the line of succession. The idea appalled some, who insisted that the monarchy had progressed past such ruthless practicality. However, arguments became passionate even within the family. William struggled to balance his responsibilities as a future king with his devotion as a father. When told of the inside conversations, Catherine, who was already emotionally broken, reportedly broke down in tears. Her meltdown wasn't silent, according to royal nurses. She wept for her son, as well as the stress of trying to protect his honor in the face of the organization he was born into. She declined public appearances for days. She remained by Louis's side behind the golden walls, clinging to quiet periods in between erratic neurological crises. Then came the most heartbreaking part of all. Prince Louis asked the one inquiry that broke everyone's hearts when he was old enough to realize something wasn't right. When I grow up, will I still be a prince? Despite being innocent, it revealed everything. The anxiety, uncertainty, and quiet suffering of a youngster caught up in a far larger storm than himself. However, internal conflicts erupted just as the royal family appeared to be united in grief. Because confrontation, not compassion, was what followed, Prince William's breaking point was reached. Driven by fury and a sense of paternity, he stormed into King Charles's personal quarters and made a demand that would rock the monarchy. "Tell everyone, or I'll permanently leave with my kids." For months, William had watched in silence while decisions regarding his kid were filtered via public relations tactics rather than paternal concern. Statements were falsified and timelines were distorted. However, the future monarch was simmering behind closed doors. And it all culminated one late afternoon when William received a classified report that confirmed the palace had been informed about Louis's condition much earlier than they acknowledged. He didn't hold off. William entered King Charles's private study without prior notice or arrangement, accompanied only by his 2 royal security guards. There would never be any television coverage of what took place inside. However, 2 people who were outside the chamber claimed that voices were raised to levels that were uncommon inside the palace. And as the cameras fade and the palace gates close once again, one truth remains undeniable. The world may speculate, headlines may explode, and whispers may echo through the halls of power, but at the heart of it all is still a family. A mother protecting her child. A father torn between duty and love. And a monarchy facing questions it cannot ignore forever. Whether this was a moment of crisis, strategy, or simple misunderstanding, only time will reveal the full picture. But one thing is certain, the royal family stands at a crossroads, and every decision made behind those historic walls will shape the future in ways we may not yet understand. As more details emerge, we will continue to follow every development carefully and responsibly. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the stories shaping the modern monarchy. This is not